All right, next up here, very interesting non-conference game here, Kansas and Houston. We've got the Houston Cougars, 10-point home favorites in this game, 62.5, 63 being the total. I'll tell you what, for Houston, what do they have left in their emotional and physical reserve or gas tank, whatever you want to call it? Because I can't think of two more exhausting, emotional, crazy roller coaster ride of a pair of football games to begin your season than what Houston went through with UTSA overtime, which they won, and then follow it up with Texas Tech last week, another wild game, which they lost 33-30. And if you're betting Houston games under the total the first 2 weeks, you're just absolutely beside yourself because overtime has killed your under in both games. The UTSA overtime game with Houston went over because of overtime. Same thing with the Texas Tech game last week. But wild, crazy games. They were on the losing end of the overtime result last week against Texas Tech. I'll say this now about this Houston defense. Not as good to me. I think I've seen enough through 2 games where I don't think it's as good as it was last year. Because last year that was a really good Houston Cougar defense. I mean, UTSA and Frank Harris moved the ball pretty nicely against them. Donovan Smith taking over for the injured Tyler Shuck at quarterback for Texas Tech. I thought he moved the ball really well. 351 passing yards through the air. They ran it for 119 in the game as well. Nice balance there for Texas Tech. Secondary kind of shredded them, and they lost last week. They won the week before, 2 exhausting overtime games. And I'll tell you what, with Kansas, Kansas defensively, there's still issues there. No doubt about that. We saw that against West Virginia. But there is no question in my mind that Kansas is making some significant strides as a program. There's no question. We saw it at the end of last year. They're now 5-0 ATS, Kansas, the last 5 games dating back to last year. They won outright as 31-point dogs against Texas. They took TCU down to the wire last year on the road, lost 31-28 as 3 touchdown underdogs. They lost by 6 against West Virginia last year as 15.5-point underdogs. They rout Tennessee Tech in their opener this year. And then against West Virginia just last Saturday, 14-point dogs. They win in overtime, 55-42. They've got an offense. That much we know about Kansas. They've got themselves a team that can move the football this year. I've been impressed with the quarterback, Jalen Daniels, dual threat. He can run. He can throw. They've got a couple good targets at receiver, specifically Lawrence Arnold, Quentin Skinner, and Luke Grimm for Kansas. They've got some weapons. They got a good offensive line, brought a lot of it back last year. And this coach, Lance Leipold's doing it again. All he's done is he's gotten the program to get better and better and better, made Buffalo better and better and better when he was there. And he's doing that with Kansas. I'm on Kansas again, Connor Mack. I am. I said this is going to be one of the more undervalued teams coming into the college football season. And don't look now. The issue we had for years with Kansas, don't ever take them on the road. You cannot trust them on the road. Well, they're flipping that narrative right now because look at these road games. Beat Texas on the road. Lose by 3 at TCU last year on the road. Beat West Virginia last week in Morgantown in overtime. All of a sudden, the road woes are dissipating. This team's finding ways to play good football away from Lawrence, Kansas. And that's a positive for the program moving forward. Give me Kansas here, +10. I think it's a competitive game. And look, Houston's defense, not all it's been cracked up to be in the first 2 games. They gave up yards, points to UTSA. They gave up yards, points to Texas Tech. This Kansas offense looks like it can move it. And I think that offense, even with some defensive issues, keeps them in this game. I like them plus the points. I would lean to the over here because, again, these 2 teams have played exhausting games last week, both of them. Kansas against West Virginia, Houston, Texas Tech defense was on the field a lot for both of them. Maybe you see signs of that, a little reverberating effect of that here, a little fatigue setting in. So it would be the dog. It would be the over for me. What do you like here, Connor? Kansas, Houston.
Yeah, that was a rough one for Houston. As soon as that game, though, moved to 4, I just had to back off Texas Tech and look to Houston, and they got the cover even though the loss. And, in that game, Toon didn't really light it up. They had 15 first downs. They had 11 penalties, a couple turnovers. They just couldn't convert like they have in the past. Now they are going to be here at home This should be a big one, and I think they score points. But I'm with you. I think Kansas, as we've seen, can move the rock. So I like this over here at this number, and I think the 10 points could be valuable, and we get in a shootout back and forth, and I think that might just be too many here, getting 10. So I like Kansas. I'm with you. I thought that was a great game, especially I didn't know how much. Well, we have a little bit of a problem with West Virginia's defense. The first two games, I think they might have issues there. But for Kansas to just move it like that on them, that was good to see, especially on the road, like you mentioned.